1, 2, 1, 2. Testing.
Yeah, no, we're already rolling. So
we're on. We're rolling.
We're rolling. Yes.
So this is it. Where's the camera?
All the cameras are hidden in this place, you know. So
it's Studio 5.0. So it's like,
ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
We are live,
and he did not know. Thanks a lot. So apparently the camera's all over the place, and I'm stuck in this room, and I have no clue what's going to happen. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. So we always say we like to have conversations where people can just be fly on the wall, learn more about the guests that we have. You fly in from? Where are you living these days, or do you live at the place at all, or just traveling around? What?
Lately I've been spending a lot of time in Vietnam. Yeah, and then I flew into Sweden. And then I am in Holland for some reason, or in the Netherlands.
Yep.
It's a little bit cold here when I've been used to living in Vietnam.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, I did grow up in Sweden.
Yeah, so the cold is not very unfamiliar to you, but it's just adapting to it again, or? It
brings back my traumatic childhood.
I thought you would say it's a contrast with Vietnam, but it goes deeper than that.
Exactly. But it's not okay. It's because you're into cold baths, so I should not be talking about cold. You like real cold, right?
Well, we like both the heat and the cold. So it's called contrast therapy. So basically you want to have an adaptive body system that can endure cold and heat. So it's the same mechanism that applies for both the cold as the heat. So when you train with that type of therapy, both the cold becomes more comfortable, but also we're standing the heat. So if you end up in the middle of the desert, if you're a bit adventurous, let's say, then you will also adapt to that. So the internal mechanisms in your body that controls temperature, are then stimulated every day. And one of the things why that's important to stimulate that is because nowadays we live in a very controlled environment, right? So you go inside, it's 21 degrees, or you put your coat on when it's cold, so your body temperature stays controlled every day. So you go from your house to your car to the office, and then that's very comfortable. But maybe, as you know, comfort is something that can also be very harmful for us humans. And then many body systems, like your veins and all those thousands and thousands of kilometers of veins and cells, they become a bit sleepy. And that basically sort of shuts down your body very step by step. And all the sort of primal things that makes us, want to be alive as humans are not being awakened. And if you then expose your body to extreme cold or extreme heat, or just expose yourself to the temperature that is at hand at the day on the outside, your body awakens itself, and that has a whole range of benefits. I think those benefits are just part of being human, so they're just installed in us. It's nothing special that we're getting there. But the opposite, just spending your whole life in 21 degrees in comfort, leads to a whole bunch of diseases and stuff that we just don't want in our life, right? Does that trigger something with you, or?
Absolutely, this is so fascinating, because even if I don't talk so much about that you do, I talk a lot about fears and the restrictions that we have, and when I coach people, it's about helping people release their restrictions that most of the time we're not even aware of, because we all live in patterns. And it's so interesting what you're saying, because one of the reasons I'm doing this event in Vietnam in November is called Ignite the Greater You, because I really do believe we have greatness within us that we are not even aware of. So my job and my passion and my skill as a coach is to help people discover greater capacities within. But it's so fascinating. One of the reasons why I want to take on a big challenge is also to inspire other people to take on great challenges, big challenges in life. And the question is, what happens to us when we are in the midst of a really big challenge, which is exactly that. It's the threat response. It's the fear. It's the, what do I do now? And unfortunately, for many people, it produces so much stress that is not healthy. So we need to learn how to actually
cope with the environment of stressfulness and then proceed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing, like you said, if we just confine to trying to be comfortable, is not comfortable at all, really.
We get the opposite.
We get the opposite. Exactly.
We have a paradigm that we use, like each day we want to do something that we are not comfortable in. And that is our skill. So we try to train ourselves in that.
Yeah.
So like, okay, what for today, what is our hardest task to do? And we studied mental models, and one of the mental models is like the principle of eat the frog, that you do the hardest thing straight up in the morning, and then the rest of the day is a walk in the park.
Yeah.
But for us, that's like a mechanism that we try to train as well. So each day, try to push a little bit further than you have your knowing, and go a little bit beyond that. And that's discomfort. So like, how do I do this? But by making those first steps into that world, then you just learn, hey, this comes to mind, or hey, this is happening. And that's new, but it's learning. And then you see like, hey, we can do this, or it's happening and it's no problem.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you have no idea. So that's for us like something we would like to have an experience in each day, every day, and it's challenging. It's really hard, but it brings us a lot of new insights.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and like you're in a bit. You're in Vietnam. This is also a challenge for you, right? To get 1,000 people there in that event.
Absolutely.
And then what? What lives in you? And what is something that those 1,000 people can sort of expect, if there's any expectations at all when they join one of your shows?
Yeah, and let me tell you, as far as putting up an event, right? It's every time I've done it, and I've done events in 15 countries. Every time, when it gets close, there's something in me says, I'm never going to do this again.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then once I've done it, I feel I should do this more often.
Yeah.
So we always when we face difficulties, we are going to have these moments. I want to quit. I want to, right? Like an athlete, you're in super pain. And athletes are trained not to endure pain, but actually to love pain.
Okay.
If it's a good pain, right? Athletes actually love to go to the gym. And let's face it, it's painful. It hurts in the body. Why do athletes do it? So what if we can do that in life also? That we learn to love the challenge, the stress, the pressure, and then we can transform that. And that's what I'm going to teach them at the event, how we can actually do that in life situations where things are thrown at us, the unexpected, the stresses of finances, relationships. It doesn't matter what it is, what happens within us, and how can we do something then about what is happening within us, and therefore also then create solutions to these problems.
Yeah, so you say you now help athletes with that, but your background is very much in music, right? So
yeah, so it's interesting with voice, because a lot of people know me as a voice coach. Other people know me more as a peak performance coach. But why is it that, for example, people say that public speaking is the thing that they fear the most? Isn't that interesting? Or getting up and singing. Now, a lot of people who are singers, they of course love to be in that environment where they actually get to express on the stage, and they fear everything else. A lot of artists are not good when it comes to business, and they have to deal with all the other things. They just want to sing. Yeah, but there's a lot of other things if you're going to be successful also, right? So that also creates a lot of stress. Then, of course, I've helped people who are about to have big concerts, and then suddenly the voice isn't functioning. Talk about stress, talk about fear, talk about challenge, talk about this feeling of, oh, I need to quit. Or I want to quit, right?
Can you have some examples of when that happened? And I can imagine that's a very sort of urgent situation where that the artist is then dealing with, right? So the concert is coming, and then in the days before, what is it that the artist then experiences?
Yeah, well, imagine you're going to go up on stage and you're going to perform in front of a lot of people. It's not only by you and the audience, it's also the band, everyone you're employing, right? So so if you're going to have to cancel, that's a big deal. Yeah. And I've helped artists, many artists over the, over 20 years now that I've been coaching. So artists who are in trouble don't want to talk about it and they don't want to publicize it. I can talk about Vincent. I assume he's going to be okay with it because he has talked about it in public. So he represented Austria in the Eurovision Song Contest. But he talked about it publicly afterwards then. So, but yeah, you're 2 weeks before the show, you're representing your country and the voice isn't functioning. What are you going to do? You can't cancel. So what he said then, and I appreciate that he shared this because it's important for people to realize that he said that 80% was the mental aspects. First of all, you can't heal a physical problem if you're in stress all the time, right?
Yep.
If you're in constant fear, the body's not going to respond very well. So we have to do certain things so that the body can heal, but then also the peak performance aspect to come alive during that moment when you go up on stage and you can express, and he did extremely well. But you can imagine how the pressure of not knowing, am I going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
So good for him.
Yeah. And what are then the sort of steps that you go through? Because you say 80%, it's something. Is it more a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Is it a combination of both? Of how does that manifest into that person? And is that the same process and steps that you then have for every person in that situation, or is it a very unique personal thing that the person then is dealing with? Would you say that fear is like a universal thing, or is it more a personal thing that a person
Well,
deals
fear
with?
is very universal.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about fear a little bit because it's such a fascinating subject matter. I love fear.
Yeah, same here.
And the thing is, when you say that, people go, what do you mean? Part of also at my events is I'm going to teach people to fall in love with fear. But that's not how we are trained, or that's not how we grow up. A lot of people grow up believing that fear is a weakness. Many men grow up that fear is a weakness. We shouldn't show fear. We have to be strong, as if being strong and being tough is the opposite of fear. Many think then that many therefore become conditioned to deny their fears, and they actually grow up not even being aware of what fear is, and it becomes like a negative thing. When fear is really a protective mechanism, it's important. The sympathetic nervous system is triggered for some reason. This is wonderful. It means we're human.
Yeah.
But if we're not aware of it and we try to deny it and we call it different things, and the fight or flight response, yeah, of course, if it's about fighting for our life or running for our life, but that's not how our daily life is. It's not that we're going to fight like crazy or we're going to run like crazy.
Yeah, or you don't recognize the situation. It's like the fear of public speaking, the fear of being on stage, the fear to do something for the first time. I think that's a very recognizable way of having a fear, right?
Sure.
But many of those fears are probably not visible for us, and just sabotaging us on a subconscious level that we are not aware of. So what would be your process there, or what are your ideas there to highlight those fears. And so they're on the table so you can actually see them for the first time.
Right. And the fear of public speaking is just a term. It's not public speaking that people fear. So what is the fear really? So I am so in favor of developing greater awareness. I think that's where it starts with everything. What am I, and dare to ask that question, what am I afraid of? Now, if I ask that question to someone, they're not going to be able to answer.
No, of course not.
Right?
Because they don't think about it, right?
But they don't think about it. What are you actually afraid of? And it also then, because people are conditioned that way, if they are asked that question, it becomes a defense. It's like, oh, because I don't want to admit that I'm afraid. And if someone said, if I admit that I'm afraid of something, then people feel that they need to encourage me. No, you don't need to be afraid. It's okay. You don't be afraid. What do you mean? I'm many because it's a good thing. It's not that you need to fix it. So we have this thing about fear that we're afraid of the fear. We try to deny it, right? So then how it then manifests is, of course, on the sports field, you start blaming the umpire, you become aggressive, or you become aggressive towards
or
yourself.
Hiding yourself, right?
Or you run, hide, you deny, it's like, it wasn't my fault. Then blaming other people is kind of both running away from the actual thing and aggression, accusing someone else, right?
Yeah.
So if you can own a so-called mistake, and then you can do something about it. But so the process starts with awareness, acknowledging that, okay, what is it really? And that goes back to our instinct of survival. What am I afraid of? Well, I am afraid that I'm not going to fit in. I'm not going to belong. I'm not going to be loved. It all comes down to that somehow, because that's what we need in order to survive. It is a survival. It is trying to protect us from survival. It's great. Mm-hmm. We are good at surviving.
Yeah.
And so that's where it starts, the awareness of that.
Yeah. What I hear is for myself, fear. I see fear together with the emotion. And I always say you have fear and failure. Those are two topics that I take together. Yeah. And then the fear is the emotion, and the failure is the behavior, that I succeed or I don't succeed. And if I look at it like that, it already brings me a little bit of rest. So, okay, I am on my path to succeed or not succeed. So what actions do I need to succeed? And the fear comes in when I think I'm not succeeding. So the things I'm doing are not working. And I cannot get the result. And for myself, that's lowering those thoughts and that emotion and think of, okay, what brings me the success and what brings me forward? And when this is going on, to zoom out and to see the consciousness, like what is happening and how am I acting in what I try to achieve. Then fear can be a leverage to use. Like, okay, I have a little bit of fear to succeed, yes or no, but let's keep the thinking going. And what actions do actually help me move forward? Knowing that there is fear is like step one, as I look at it. So my background is from the military, 20 years of special forces. And if fear paralyzes you, then you're shut down. So that's like, okay, survival mode. But if you can see that you are getting paralyzed, and then have actions on to do, like, okay, focus not on the outside, on the environment, to start blaming people and actually try to look at the environment, but to go inside, like, hey, what am I feeling? How is my body? Am I shaking? Yes or no? And the first thing that I teach within the special forces is to focus. Like, okay, hyper focus on one thing, and that brings you back in the now. And from there, you can make new steps. And then you build yourself up back to the environment. Like, okay, what am I trying to achieve? How am I? Can I still think? So it's like the overruling of the total feeling, because the feelings are overwhelming. And then try to get back into this action mode. And get yourself going. Is that a theme that you have seen as well? Like the fear and the failure towards success? Is that a roadmap?
Very much so. But let me ask you, what would an example of failure be?
Well, the baseline is to not meet your goal. So the military mission is about, okay, is the objective reached? Huh? So do we complete the mission?
Okay.
Is it successful, yes or no? So
Okay.
for extreme measures is like we have a hostage situation. Did we retrieve the hostage and we return with the full team, with
Right.
all team members, so nobody got shot or whatever?
But even in that process, there are many steps of getting there, right? And if we look at our personal lives, what have you failed lately?
I love failure. So I failed a couple of things that I'm trying new. So it's not in my regular things that I fail, but I try new things, and that's where I fail at.
Because I think it's interesting. At what point do we measure something as a failure?
Yeah.
And I think people run into trouble there because they do that very quickly. And then as if that's some kind of end. And now I go in retreat because I fail. Well, did you? Or is that an opportunity for an adjustment? That's an opportunity for something. It's always learning, right? So I don't know when a failure is a failure. I don't even use that word.
Yeah, it's a judgment as well.
It's a judgment because if you have a clear goal, okay, fine, and this is what we want to accomplish. But if you don't, then what?
Yeah. Normally, it's not the end of the world, right?
Well, maybe that's an opportunity for something even greater.
Yeah.
So at what point was that then failure? At what point was the learning experience so that we could go to some even greater success that we hadn't even imagined?
Yeah. Like if that's your thinking process, right? That's of course great, but that implies that there's already a feedback loop in place. And maybe that's obviously what you learned during your education as becoming a special forces. You've been confronted with the fear of drowning, the fear of like very, very real life-threatening situations that you climbing mountains without gear and all that. So very real things that if you don't sort of succeed, there are like immediate consequences of that. And of course, they try to make that train environment safe. But then still in a safe situation, you can still black out or you can still have that. But then afterwards, there's a sort of debrief situation or it's a feedback loop, right? Or how you then, so you learn, so you created the environment there, not for yourself only, but for everybody enrolled into that, let's say you stay a little bit too long on the water, so you have a blackout situation. What is then the process afterwards?
Yeah, well, and maybe you recognize that as well. But when something isn't working on an extreme level, like for climbing, I was lead climbing. And when you fall off the mountain, like it's not working and you fall your rope length down, you're full of stress and you're like, wow, I cannot get up. But the thing is to get straight back into it. So don't let your thought and your mind get all these restrictions and objectives like, okay, I can move through the first part of this climb, but I can't go there because I failed at that point. But I need to overcome. But the thing is that especially in these training, in military training, they straight up put you back in that environment and do it again. So what we learned was to consider it just as a repetition. Right. So for today, you make multiple repetitions and it's okay to not succeed. So you learn not to succeed. And by learning not to succeed and doing that and being in that environment, you know exactly what is not working. So you can prevent that. And
so in my mind, that would be succeeding.
In the end, it is succeeding. Yeah, but it's just how you label it. So we needed to learn that it was actually, we are succeeding by not succeeding, but we were learning so much from the part of not succeeding.
Yes.
And that moved us forward.
And we could also argue that if you didn't have the fear, you wouldn't prepare and you would die.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the fear is helpful. The fear makes us prepare. We understand that there are consequences.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't understand that, I would go up there and climb and I would be dead, right? So fear is wonderful. Protects us.
Yeah, protects us. I need to do this. This needs to happen. Exactly.
And then so these are situations in the military context. How does this apply to, let's say, entrepreneurs, artists, and athletes? What are the difference there that you are seeing, or is it all the same mechanism?
I have a recurring nightmare. And it's interesting because I used to work in the theater and I was performing 7 shows a week, and I have this dream that I'm asked to sing the role again. I did, for example, Cats, if you know that. I was the Rum-Tum Tiger, the Swedish Rum-Tum Tiger, the rock and roll cat in the musical Cats. It broke the Swedish all-time box office record at the time. So I have this dream that I'm been asked to do it again. I thought, oh, that'd be cool. All right, great. So then in my dream, I'm about to get up on stage and I realize I don't know the song. And I'm desperately, frantically trying to find someone who has the script, that has the words. What are the words? I have absolutely no idea. It's been so long. And I have not prepared. And it freaks me out. How could I do this? How could I forget? How could I forget to prepare? It's a horrible dream. But isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. What if I actually did that and did it nonchalantly, go up on stage, and I haven't prepared?
And that dream is haunting you, so it's coming back all the time.
And then people who know how to read dreams can tell me what that's all about. But maybe it is a signal sending me, hey, remember to acknowledge fear. That is a good thing. And prepare.
Yeah. I always say, like, a dream is for the upcoming day. It's like from within, something wants to tell you and give you a gift for the day.
Okay.
And I consider that, like, dreaming is the gift for the day.
Okay.
So if you still can remember it, because a lot of people, like, they sleep, it's a black hole, they wake up, can't remember any dream. And I studied the world of dreaming with a Buddhist monk.
Oh, you have studied that?
Yeah,
okay.
I did that. Yeah.
Well, so tell me then, what does this dream mean?
well, this dream, of course, the cliche answer is like the dream is personal, so you know what it means to you. But as I hear it, it's like the daily remembrance of some handholds for remembering yourself, like, this is important.
Okay.
So maybe this dream, as I would say, is like, okay, this aspect of the fear of not being prepared is an important one for you to bring to the world. So your dream remembers you on this topic, so that for today you can bring that back into the world, because the world needs it.
Okay.
And the other people who aren't aware, they need to hear it through you, via you. So that's how I would explain this dream in particular.
I haven't shared this dream. I should share it more.
There you go. Yeah.
But it is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Because it reminds me then that fear is beautiful.
Yeah.
And if people just do difficult things, and just do nonchalantly, well, then you are going to fail. But the failure is that you didn't take it for real, right? You didn't. And that's, again, I want to encourage people to live their dreams, take on their dreams, take on their projects. If you have an idea, implement it. I always talk about that with entrepreneurs. Let's implement something. I have an idea. Okay, I've been spending some time in Vietnam. I love the country. I love the people. People have encouraged me to do the events. I say, okay, I'll do it. I have no clue what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But let's do it. If I have an idea, I don't want to have it in my head. Yeah. What's the point?
You have a very much of a sort of yes mentality of what the world offers you, right? So
yeah, but I also have a lot of fears.
Yeah.
So therefore I have to say, okay, what's the strategy? What are some consequences? How do I prepare for that?
Yeah. So it doesn't mean you're reckless, right? So that's how people that are not used to dealing with fear, they will probably think of you as a sort of reckless person if you just jump into that. Like, Per, are you not prepared? But you would not consider yourself as a reckless person, probably.
No, would not consider myself reckless. I like challenges once in a while.
Yeah.
But I think it makes us feel alive.
Yeah. So let me share a couple of fears that I'm, bring into awareness or so. So one I have already for a very long time. And one idea is also that this conversation triggers me to think about it. I also think that on the opposite, facing those kind of fears can probably lead to big breakthroughs, right? So I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
So one thing that I fear, for example, is doing my blood work because I'm afraid of needles. So I entered a couple of those clinics where I can do that. But every time I'm there, I just go out. So I cannot handle it.
This is a process for many, many years already.
Already years that I'm dealing with that. And there are people that are trying to call me, and they're used to those kind of fears in that situation. But I'm very much hesitant to sort of step over it and let it do. But probably for the work that I do, it can lead to big breakthroughs, right? Because it can give me insights that can be very much useful for the stuff that Djack and I are building. So that's one fear. Second fear that I have is still the fear of sitting on my ass to just do the work that is at hand. Maybe that's also recognizable. But then I always have this sort of FOMO background, like, oh, isn't this that I should do or that, instead of sort of sticking at the job at hand. So in that, I train myself a little bit over the years as entrepreneur. So that is a skill that I developed, but still does not come sort of naturally. What would you recommend me in those two situations? Or what comes to mind?
So it's the fear of missing out is probably one of the greatest fears. If I didn't have the fear of missing out, I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, you would be all good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other thing is to recognize also that we're always going to have fears. So I don't think it's going to be, I'm trying to solve every fear, overcome every fear, right? And there I'm going to live a life with no fears.
Yeah.
That does not exist. I'm still going to this is still going to be something I'm going to miss out on.
Yeah.
So I think acceptance, awareness leads to acceptance is a starting point. Accepting, I'm afraid. So what? I am afraid that I'm going to miss out on this. I'm going to miss out on this. If I spend time on this, I'm not going to have to spend time on that. And there's acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is. Doesn't mean now the fear, of course, will be diminished, but it doesn't mean that I've solved it. No, the truth is that I am going to miss out on that. I will not be able to experience that, do that. So that's sort of an acceptance also that we are not perfect. It's impossible to solve every so-called problem. Then the question is, now that we have accepted it, is it still a problem? Mm-hmm. Then maybe it's not a problem. It just is what it is. Because acceptance is exactly that. It just is. Needle in my arm, it just is also. Now, we could ask you, what are you actually afraid of? What are the consequences?
Yeah, I passed out a couple of times in the past and I've found that unpleasant. So
and what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with passing out?
Well, I'm still alive. I'm in a safe, controlled environment.
Right.
And I know that consciously, so I can overcome that on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, then it makes me run away from those clinics that offer that.
But is passing,
even when I paid my full amount of money for the test already, so I did it 3 times.
But let's look at that. Then is passing out a failure?
I won't consider it as failure because I had that a couple of times.
So is it uncomfortable?
Yeah.
How do you know? You're unconscious.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So at what point is it uncomfortable? When you're passed out, you don't know, right?
Yeah, like the fear of passing out, maybe then. That's that
And
comes
what are
to
the
mind.
consequences of passing out? Are you going to fall and hit your head, or are you going to be embarrassed, or that you're going to have a queasy feeling in your stomach afterwards and you feel ashamed? What, you feel guilty that you're not a strong man? I mean,
Yeah, I maybe the feeling that you're sort of not handling that situation or so or something.
Right.
In the past, I had it. I had a vaccination. Then I was being left alone in the school class, and then I collapsed on my mouth and lost 4 or 5 of my teeth. So that is a sort of memory that I then have on that. Yeah.
And it is interesting that, right? Because I mean, with like serious traumatic experiences, we may not have a conscious memory of it, but the body remembers. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I have a 5-minute solution for it.
Yeah.
But but in this case, and this is actually very common, that people do pass out and people feel this thing about needles. I don't like it myself. Mm-hmm. I will look away and I will focus on something else while I do it. I do not like the sight of blood. It makes me queasy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, but it's interesting what you say in this context of what we're talking about here, that what is the actual fear? It's not the actual needle. It's not the pain of the needle. It's something happened to you and there's some kind of memory from the past. And now it created a story around that now you're less of a man because you're passing out, or you feel guilty, shameful. You feel that you shouldn't be doing that. You should be able to handle it because you are, there's all these things that are going on. And we create these stories about ourselves. So if we can start with acceptance of everything, that if I pass out, that's cool. Mm-hmm. And if next time you go in and joke about it, hey, stick a needle in, I'm probably going to pass out, but that's cool. I love it. Mm-hmm. Already there, it's probably going to be a little bit different. They're going to chuckle. And even if you try to pass out, you're not going to succeed. It's like, darn it, I didn't pass out today. It's like, what happened?
We're gonna make it fun.
What happened? Now you created a different
pass out party at
at the clinic. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. So at the moment, it's probably going to be right at the moment when you stick in, I'll probably pass out, just that you're aware.
Yeah.
Okay. It might be 2 seconds delay. We'll see. I'll see if I can make it like 1 second delay, but it might be 2. We'll see. I'm trying to create that feeling right now. I mean, already there, we are not changing anything about the past and the cellular memory of what everything that's going on, right? But even there, when we put a different story to it and a different perspective, we're seeing the event itself from a different perspective, is probably going to make the event quite different for you.
Yeah.
But if you go in and say, darn it, if I pass out today, it's gonna, and then you create the fear, and of course, what we fear then is what we attract. So if we go in with that fear, then if there's a way that you can prepare, like we talked about climbing, but it's not really, you can't do anything about that needle, if you need to have a different shirt or something. No, that's not going to make a difference,
Pump
right?
up my arm a little bit so the veins are more visible.
Well, prepare. Well, if that is an issue that they can't find the vein and they have to like stick it, and they always mess up, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but the mechanism of fear is then so strong because I'm also trained of dealing with fear. So during my time in Spain with Wim Hof, the whole topic of that 10-day training was overcoming your fears. Yeah. So we did all sorts of things in every sort of discipline that awakened that fear. So one of the things that people sort of feared most was jumping off a very high bridge into the water beneath it, and it was a bridge of like 20 meters. So it was a couple of things that you need to control, because if you collapse on the water, that could be a painful experience, or you could even break something if the angle was not right or so. So you need to be a little bit prepared and follow the instructions, although it's your first time doing that thing, right? And we had not the way Wim explained it was like, okay, that very moment that you're on the bridge, and some people were like literally shaking, totally sort of out of control shaking. you said that's a sort of mechanism of a horse that is getting out of control, and it's up to you to just calm the horse, bring it back to, you know, his resting place, and say, horse, you're fine. And sort of that was his analogy to deal with that, with that bodily reaction of being in such a fearful situation.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of very, very real thing, because at that moment you jump off that bridge, but then on the smaller things it sort of manifests itself as well. So we also did, for example, going into the cold, which is also like a experience where your body wants to shut down, and you get all sorts of emergency calls in your brain, like, what are you doing? Get out, because it's not a natural situation. But even with that training and being able to have those experiences, there are still like many fears on the table that you're still that I still not face in that sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So how would you say? Let's phrase it like that. How would you sort of, if you could use this as a sort of voluntarily mechanism for growth, right?
Yeah.
So also your event in Vietnam is finding your greater self, so to say, and very much of that is probably hidden in that it's not about finding the things you love, and so this is more sort of surface level kind of situation, but the real deal comes in that iceberg beneath where all those fears are hidden, right? So
absolutely. So if we're going to train ourselves to be able to perform at our best when it matters the most, and when it matters the most is probably when we're facing a challenge, and that could be on the sports field, it could be on a big stage, but for most people it's in other situations. We also have to learn what it feels like inside our body when we are at our optimum. So a lot of people do engage in like meditation and so forth, and I'm all for that, but how do you apply it in a stressful situation is
critical.
It's critical. Yeah. Exactly. But if you don't know what's happening in your body, you haven't trained that, well, it's going to be a hard time. So, for example, I don't like heights.
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 Okay. Yeah.
To be high up, right? Super scary. And, I get dizzy, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. So quite a long time ago now, I was in the amusement park in Sweden. It's like a free fall thing that you go way up high, right?
Is it sort of a bungee jump, so to say, or free fall actually?
No, and then
okay.
You drop down, right?
Yeah.
So you're in stillness and you're waiting for the moment where But even in stillness, it's not a nice view suddenly because I don't feel safe. But then it's like, why not? So I'm going to use this now as an exercise. So why would it not be safe up there? I have to assume that it's safe, otherwise I wouldn't go there. And when I get up there, I'm going to feel the same way as I feel when I am in a safe environment. But in order to know what that feels like, I have to practice that. I have to know what it feels like when I feel calm, when I'm triggering the parasympathetic nervous system, when all the chemistry and biological responses happen, right? I have to know what that feels like and how I can trigger that. So now I'm going to trigger that when I'm up there. It was a beautiful exercise. It was amazing. But then I was in South Korea, in Seoul, and they have this, their big tower, a lot of tower there. And they have this glass floor.
Yeah.
And I stepped out on it, and I was like, whoa. I was so freaking out. My balance was off. I was like, I couldn't take a step forward. And I didn't have so much time, but I felt that, this would be really, really fascinating to practice up here. And I didn't have time to do that, but I couldn't get to that peaceful calm just walking in those few moments that I had up there. But I would have liked to stay longer and experiment with that, because obviously logically we know there's no difference walking there, looking down, right? So what is it that happens in my body? Something with the vision, right? If I close my eyes, but now even when I close my eyes, I've already seen it, right?
Yeah.
So now the whole body creates this vision, and this is what we do to ourselves, right?
Exactly.
We create this vision, whether we see it or we don't see it, we create this fear.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating that we do that, but we're human, so we want to accept that. I don't want to talk myself into that I'm a bad person and I'm horrible. No, this is a real danger that the body is perceiving.
I think it's in China where they built this bridge on almost like a very high altitude as well, that is entirely of glass, and there are a whole bunch of videos of people going over the bridge for the first time, and some people are really like clinching to the bridge, or try to crawl over it. But it's so interesting to see.
It's a good lesson for life, right? We know that it's safe. There's no difference. And I think even as kids, we were always experimenting, like when we tried to walk with balance on a beam or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Why do we become more scared, even though it's not high, than walking on a straight line on that flat surface? What happens? I was always fascinated about that, why different things happen inside of me when the reality is no different, but my senses are picking it up and creating this perceived danger.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like you have a slack line and it's close to the floor and you walk on it, you say, hey, that's easy. But when you gain altitude, it's like it gets more difficult.
Yeah.
And the thing I hear in your story with the free fall and the glass floor is in military service, I learned to trust the materials. Okay. So in this case, I would say, hey, when I'm in a device on high altitude and the device where I'm sitting in brings a free fall, then I can trust, okay, I'm safe. In my mind, I see the vision of a safe environment, and I tell myself that. So that imagery and those thoughts help me to just trust the materials, and then somehow click, and then whoop, you got the free fall.
Yeah.
But the difference with the glass floor is exactly what I'm feeling as well, because I've within mountaineering on high altitude, and I've climbed the Alps and 4,000 meter plus, is that you perceive with your eyes the acute dangers. So in this case, to trust the glass to not break, that's the hardest thing, because that's something you need to imagine or just trust. And it's immediate. You know, glass can break and then it's gone. So those for myself, that's a big difference between these two triggers. If you would like to train yourself on fears and overcome it, that even if you close your eyes on the glass floor and you open them, you're straight back into that what you see and the actual danger of it. So that's a great example as well. Yeah.
And for most people in life, it's not about those situations. It's about having that difficult conversation. It's about taking on our projects. It's about we're doing something and that didn't work out. It's the stress of finances. It's all those kind of challenges. But if we look at that, the body is perceiving that threat for some reason, but it may not be 100% real.
And then let's talk about the upside situation when you know how to deal with that fear, right? Because that's the whole point of basically what you're doing on your events, etc.
Right.
So let's say we have your son is you're here for your son as well, because he plays in the Swedish national team for baseball.
Right.
But you have helped many athletes, and on the pitch it also manifests itself. So now he's suddenly in war, right? 90 minutes game, and it needs to happen within that 90 minutes. How would that fear manifest, and how would sort of overcoming that fear manifest into in what state of being would an athlete then be when he's totally calm with that situation?
Well, it's so interesting to watch kids when they play when they're younger. And we had many instances that we talked about that he became aware of. the kid who's afraid of making the mistake is also the kid who will make the big mistake in the big moment. And why is that kid afraid of making a mistake? Well, again, because they feel they want to fit in, they want to be loved. Many times we had one of his teammates in school was up batting, and then afterwards, and he missed, struck out, and he would immediately look towards his dad. And then his dad would run down and say some words of wisdom. But whether it's positive or negative, what his dad said is irrelevant. The fact that the kid has his need for approval is the problem. Because now, next time he goes up, he might, whatever relationship he has with his dad, it doesn't matter. The fact that he is dependent on wanting to live up to some kind of expectation that he has within himself, he wants to do good for his dad, that becomes a problem. And so next time he goes up to swing, what's he going to feel? And we talked about this. I talked about this with my son. What's he going to feel, do you think? Of course, he's going to feel fear. He's going to feel that he can't miss again. You know, there's so much stuff going on. And I asked my son then, do you feel that you need to look up to me, look towards me in the stands? Do you need my approval? Of course not. It doesn't. So that kind of independence, that's why I've never called out instructions during a game. It's like, well, but these don't go well. Yeah. The parents are going to start yelling,
shouting also.
Just relax. Relax. Has anyone ever relaxed by being told to relax? It's so funny. Just pretend it's you're in the backyard. You know, this advice to make someone be cool. So he developed this ability at a very early age. So when coaches see this, when he's 10 years old, he was playing with 12 and 13-year-olds. When they see that he's so calm in these pressured moments and he always performs well, of course, that's also when the coaches, they want you on your team.
Yeah.
Even though he's not the fastest or hits the hardest or throws the hardest.
So he's sort of consistent, and that's a reliable player for the team then.
Exactly. And then guess what happens? He becomes the leader.
Yeah.
Because of his demeanor. And because he has a rich voice also, which also helps. So, but it's so interesting then that the kids who freak out and the coaches who freak out and they start yelling and blaming the umpire or their teammates even, that's the stress response. That's the fight or flight response again, right? So when we can become aware of that, and, if he makes what you call a mistake, right? He owns it. It's like, it's okay, my bad, no big deal. And on we go. And not to be so affected by the past, but same thing, not to be so about the future either, right? It's about, we have to do this, we're going to do this, blah, 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 the goal. It's the ability then, ultimately, to get into the zone and be in the moment, right? Which is very hard to do. Everybody talks about being in the zone and flow state.
Yep.
It's harder than people actually realize. It can be for short moments, but for a full game. But all these qualities that evolve in a human being are so valuable for other things in life. And the kid who's going to throw his bat as soon as things don't go well or yell and scream, they're going to have a hard time in life if they don't realize the psychology. Apparently, Bjorn Borg, then the famous Swedish tennis player, apparently he used to be a kid who threw his racket all the time. But when you saw him then later, when he was this Mr. Cool, right? And he did it to gain a psychological advantage over the other that he recognized in himself. So he used that as a thing.
He learned to control it, so to say, yeah.
But other people have different ways of dealing with it. You don't have to be that calm, cool. John McEnroe did fine, and he had a different demeanor.
Yeah,
so that's fine.
Some can be explosive players and use that, or explosive characters, right?
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with emotion.
Yeah.
People might be emotional. The question is, what do you do with that emotion? How do you transform that into high performance? If that emotion is going to make you go downhill, that's not useful.
Yeah, one of the toughest, I've been, back in the days before I started as an entrepreneur, I had the ambition of becoming a poker player.
Okay.
And so I sat with poker players, many times. And one of the toughest moments that every player fears at some, or encounters at some point, is that you're going to have a very bad streak of unluck. So basically you can win the games. That's not so much a matter of having luck. Luck can help you winning games, but the winning of the games is most of the time not having unluck, so to say. So having opponent with a worse hand than you, beating you on the sort of when the odds are let's say 95% in your favor. So 95% of the situation you win that hand. But you can always encounter that sort of 5% situation that you still got beaten. But at a certain point in your career, you're going to face that 20 times on a row. Mm-hmm. So 20 times on a row, you have a 95% upper hand, but you still got beaten by that. And that's really a haunting situation for players, because they know that they did the right thing. Also in their analysis afterwards, they know they did the right thing, but at a certain point, that is going to that is something you need to face. Yesterday we had Joel on our show, and he's a strongman, and as a strongman, at one point you will face a severe injury, like you're going to tear a muscle, you're going to break a bone, something that will hold you back for at least a year. And his vision was on it, like on athletes that face that situation and came into his gym with a torn bicep or something in that realm. Is like, welcome to the club. You're now officially into that strongman.
Now you're a real strongman because
because you're still showing up. While the outcomes of you competing are very insecure at this moment. So how do you how would you sort of and I think in every sport you will face that, right? So you're the top player of Real Madrid, or in a baseball team you're playing in whatever high team you have there, but you're dealing with bad luck for longer periods of time.
Yeah.
How would you overcome that kind of situations?
Well, I think it's interesting with life, because life is not
not a linear path,
right? Yeah, a baseball player, a hitter will miss more than he hits.
Yeah,
that's just a fact. That's just a statistic. And in life, maybe that's how it is in life. It's like, we're all entrepreneurs. If we run advertising, most of the advertising does not work, but that's also a good measurement to find out what doesn't work is actually a good thing. It's not failure. It's actually something that's valuable information. But, my son had surgery. So that's also an interesting thing when it comes to resilience. How do we feed this desire to want to overcome? It would have been totally fine for him to say, okay, I'm done with baseball. And so he had surgery. He knew he was going to be gone for 2 years. So he messed up his college career, basically. So moving on to a different field would be absolutely fine. But he told me, he said, what's the point of having surgery if I'm not going to test what I can do? And I thought, that's interesting. But I think that's part of it, our curiosity, right? Our curiosity. We want to discover. We want to, and this is part of my coaching. I want to help people discover what they're capable of, to have that curiosity, what's possible. So there's no measurement of success or failure in that sense. It's just, I'm curious.
Yeah.
So people ask me, okay, are you going to be successful doing an event? I don't know, but I'll set it in motion and see what I'll discover. Well, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? So at what point? So I don't have a measurement for success. Yeah. I don't have a measurement for failure.
That's a very interesting observation, I think, to see not courage as the opposite of fear, but curiosity as the opposite of fear. That sounds very true to me.
Okay.
Because your curiosity... Sometimes you need courage as a tool, right? So okay, I just do it and then fine. But I think curiosity is a bigger driver to a better approach towards fear.
I love that.
How would that be? Yeah.
I love that because many people call me a coach and a teacher, right? But I call myself a learner. I love to learn, and that includes exploring the world, learning about you. It's everything, and that's curiosity. That keeps us young, by the way. That has to do with youthfulness. And so that's a huge part of, that is life, perhaps. But then, what did you say? That?
Oh, well, everybody thinks that you need to deal with fear by just showing courage.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's right. Exactly.
But probably the key to sort of solve that situation, curiosity can be probably... So, for example, when I go to my blood work, right, that could be... The courage can be a trigger, but curiosity is probably something that attracts me more to that than...
That's interesting, yeah. Because courage is really... how we act when we experience fear. We can't be courageous unless we experience fear. Fear is a prerequisite to be courageous. So it's not really an opposite in that sense. But we could also argue that love is, or we could argue that fear is the absence of love.
Yeah.
As dark is the absence of light, we throw some light on it, suddenly there's no dark. So darkness. So if we throw some love on it, then...
it solves everything.
In a sense, right? So, but that goes hand in hand with curiosity because I love being curious. I love the situation. I love getting my blood. Oh, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wouldn't you like to know X, Y, and Z? You know, that is on the opposite of that outcome that you then receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you go on to do the blood work, you're curious what the test results is going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's curious.
Yeah.
But you might also be curious about how can someone be so educated to know where to put the needle in. I mean, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Would you know to do it? I don't know how to do it. I wouldn't dare because I don't have the skills. But if someone is trained to do that and does it on a daily basis and does it so easily, know how, and the fact that the body works that way, you put something in and the body's now going to shift where the blood is going to go into this veil. And I mean, that's amazing, isn't that? Absolutely remarkable that the body does that. And then we can actually see the blood and what it does. I mean, wow. And that she is there or he is doing it for you. You don't have to do it yourself, taking care of you in that way and making you feel comfortable. Wow, that's a lot of love in that room right there.
Yeah.
And the reason you're doing it is because you love yourself and you love to find out how to become even better, improve, and see what's going on with your body. It's a beautiful experience, really. And this is a necessary thing. And that needle is the greatest tool ever to help you on your path.
Yeah, no, I'm almost looking forward to it.
Don't you love that needle?
Yeah, exactly.
How else would you do it? Yeah. Put a hammer?
Yeah.
You know, or put a drill? No, you have just a tiny little needle.
Sometimes I ask, like, don't you have a sword? Because a sword is probably something I'm less afraid of.
Oh, yeah? You would like to have a saw and you would injure your arm forever and you lose your arm. And instead, someone has invented this thing to have a tiny little needle that you can't even feel physically, let's face it. And you put it in and then it's all solid. And that was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wait a second, because I love this programming. Because for me, it's like within the military, we came at the point within the special forces, we were sort of fearless. So for me, the topic of fear is like, fear? What are you talking about? But what I see is what's matching now for me as well during this conversation is like, it doesn't matter if I have relentless optimism or I have pessimism, but it's just, I am getting this done. And in my thoughts, I have just envisioned the steps to take within a lot of coloring and words and vision, like you're just describing this scenario. And that has always helped me. So as I feel now, like this, just saying this and painting this picture, I feel like, hey, wow, that's a beautiful gift, because probably you've never been there with your thoughts. It always has stopped here. Oh, needle. Oh, no, it's difficult. And I pass out, stuff like that. But creating this new picture and vision of, hey, I sit there, this qualified person is helping me. After that, I've got these results and it's amazing. It's going to bring me some new insights for my health. And that's completing my journey. That's also the work. So the work is also envisioning, where am I going? What does it bring? And without the emotional aspect.
Yes. But so I would suggest this. This is actually an interesting experiment you can do next time.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, when you've gone in there in the past, you're concerned about the future and the past, right? And then you try to be in the moment of your own body. But instead, if we get into the moment, the zone, flow state, by the external environment. So go into this and look at all the walls and look at this person who's there to help. Maybe be curious about their name, how long they've been working here, how did they get trained? This is so amazing. Why that they chose this profession, right? And they see all these veils and they put their labels on it, and maybe they have you check that your name is spelled right and that kind of stuff. So it goes to the right person, and then the needles, and then they clean it, and they have this process. Be fascinated about that. Yeah. And it's like, where exactly are you going to put it? You can put it here or there. Really? So what's the choice then? You might even ask a little bit about that. That's really interesting. Why don't you put it like there?
Yeah, yeah.
Or here? Why not?
So feel that curiosity also in that moment, and it's really like an experience.
And basically. It's an honest curiosity because it is fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
How did someone come up with this idea in the first place that we can do these, get these tests? Couldn't do that in the past. So that'd be fascinating, right? Because then you also get out of yourself, because you're now focusing on the external, which is what actors do, right? Well, it depends on what method acting you use, but sometimes it's about focusing on the partner, and sometimes it's about being aware of your emotions. But when you communicate, and we're focusing on our things, and then we're thinking also. So it's interesting how we can shift that internal and external. I train a performer. When we practice our voice, we focus on the internal, train the muscle isolation skills, the kinesthetic awareness. Yep. When you get on stage, it's out there. How do you shift?
Yep.
How do you become in tune with the audience?
And so now let's transfer all this thoughts to entrepreneurship, for example, because I think in entrepreneurship
that's the hardest thing. Because we fail all the time.
You fail all the time, but there's also a whole different subset of fears probably that come into account. So, for example, I think you became entrepreneur a little bit later in life, or have you been entrepreneur always?
Well, I was a performer first.
Yeah.
So when I started coaching, we could argue that I'm an entrepreneur, but I used to coach the traditional way of one-to-one coaching. Mm-hmm. But then, and this was in the US. I moved to the US.
Los Angeles, right?
Los Angeles. Yeah. Right. So then the method that I developed for training voices was becoming very helpful and becoming known for training singers and speakers. And then I realized I had a method. So then I figured, I need to publish this. How do I get it out there so it can be helpful for people who can't see me in person? So that's when I launched my online training. And the first training that I launched was in 2008. So it's been a while.
Been a while. Yeah. But then as an entrepreneur, you're sort of, for example, Djack, his story has been in the military, and after that he built up his career as entrepreneur step by step. But then you entering very much the field of sort of not knowing.
Yes.
And not knowing if you have to and sometimes it's a capabilities question. So you don't have, for example, the capability to sell something, or you don't have the capability to develop a product. So it's on the one hand, you need to develop a bunch of skill sets.
Yes.
On the one hand, you need to develop the skill set of knowing what your skill sets are that you need, right? And that's always a very, very different thing. So, for example, we're working on a book, and it's a very visual book. So we need graphic designers, and already the thinking of what you need to come to the sort of end result is a very skill that you sort of need as an entrepreneur. And that whole process on itself can become a very paralyzing process when you don't know what kind of skills you need. You don't know if the people that have that skills, you cannot recognize the people that have excellence in that. How would you navigate through? How did you navigate through that world of not knowing?
Well, I had to turn on that desire to learn.
Yeah,
because I had to accept that I don't know. But this thing of not knowing is a beautiful thing also, nothing we need to be ashamed of. Wasn't it Socrates who said that the only thing that I know is that I don't know anything?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great quote. It really is a great quote, because it opens up curiosity, but it makes us humble also. So, yes, it's about learning it. And, I came to my English, I grew up bilingual, but my English was not all that great. So when it comes to marketing and writing copy, I studied all the individual skills that I realized that I needed to learn. Copywriting, marketing, the online environment was kind of new then. Mm-hmm. I was actually holding back because I knew I wanted my training to be on video and not audio. And video was
probably something not you innate enjoy or
no. Yeah. Well, and then of course that I absolutely hate, and hate is of course a manifestation of fear, is when it comes to the practical things such as paperwork and bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff. It gives me rashes. Yeah. and because I'm a creative person, right? So, which is also an interesting thing, because I had parts of my life when I thought I was not creative. That's also blockages, right? Mm. I do come from a math background. That's also an interesting thing that we talk about resilience. Like my other son, then he had, when we talk about challenges, when he was like, I think it was 5th or 6th grade, he wasn't doing so well in math. And we were very puzzled. I'll come back to the entrepreneurship, but this actually ties into it. He didn't do so well in math. And we were puzzled because we thought math was one of his great skills. So we weren't quite sure what was going on, but we had a feeling. So we went to the teacher and said, can you please put him in the most advanced class? He was not in the most advanced. And they were like, and we asked him. So he got into the advanced class and then he thrived. Isn't that interesting? Mm. So as kids, if things are not challenging, it can also become boring. We become complacent and it doesn't. Yeah. So this is fascinating. When we have to understand for ourselves that we have to, if the challenge is too much and too overwhelming, then we're not trained to take on that, and we might back off and we give up because we hadn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
But now he's an aerospace engineer, so it's like he's a math genius. But and he's found his own way to really excel at that point. But that's the thing with the entrepreneurship. Now I have a benefit of coming from a background of understanding a little bit about systems and processes and math and numbers and patterns. Mm-hmm. So I often talk about that, also pattern recognition, because mathematicians really think in patterns, and I've just transferred that ability to recognize patterns in psychology when it comes to the coaching. But that's also part of recognizing our own patterns. So here I am, I have to break out of my own patterns of comfort or what I think I'm good at. Mm-hmm. And I recognize the things that I'm clueless about. But I'm also a skill developer. I'm a coach. The greatest fear that we all have is that we're not good enough. Because of that, we're not going to be loved, we're not going to fit in, and triggers that survival instinct. But since I love skill development, I can accept that, yes, I'm not good enough. It has nothing whatsoever to do with how good I'm going to be by Friday. And then strategies, then how do I develop these skills? But I studied a lot and all these, and I still do. Never stop.
We met in Genius Network, hosted by Joe Polish, which was all about learning the skills and finding the right people around you to sort of nourish that area of not knowing, right? So
absolutely, and it's interesting to be in a room like that with a lot of really, really amazing entrepreneurs, successful in different ways. And I felt like I'm nobody, but I realized a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah, I think Joe did a survey once, and 60% of the people sitting in the room had an imposter syndrome.
Right.
Yeah. Like they felt they didn't belong there because it's so intimidating to be around. And then apparently also like sort of the people that you expect being sort of more on the upper part of their experience, they also felt in that they had that imposter syndrome. So it's not a matter of where you are in your journey. It's just something that is also installed in us.
And we're all different, right? Because I've never wanted to have a big company with a lot of employees, a very, 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 very small amount of people on my team. And when I was in that environment, and then you have other people who have like 100 people in their companies and stuff like that, and then I tell them what I do, and I have my online business. I have people in 146 countries now who do my trainings, and I have no employees, and people, how do you do that? It's like, that's what I want, they say, right? So we're all different.
In the Netherlands, we say the grass of the neighbor is always greener. We have those sayings, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's also a very human thing to constantly compare yourself to that. And I learned to sort of shut down that whole comparison mode over the years.
That's great.
And also in the process of building Next Level Human. This is like episode. I don't even know what kind of episode.
I just want to throw this in. I actually discovered that also when I was coaching singers, because one singer knew that I was coaching that singer, and that singer would say, "Oh, I so admire what she can do. I can't do that." Well, you should know that she says that about you.
What's the point? No, but on one hand, my strength has always been as an entrepreneur, like to see a project and to think it through, break it down into all those kind of small steps, and I enjoy doing that process of what kind of skills do we need, and so I developed that skill. Yeah. But I'm also very strong analytically. So I always use my data and from running ads and to see what I need to do. But now building this new company, in the beginning there is no data. In the beginning there is no things you can optimize. You just need to create and build. That's the phase that you're then in. And so, for example, with the podcast, we're now, I think this is episode number 30 or
31, 32, something.
31. Jack and I said to each other, like, we just do 50 reps in the beginning and see where we at rep number 50. Yeah. But then also like YouTube throws you data, how much views do you have? And sometimes people ask that, like, how many views do you have? And I literally don't look at those numbers at this point because it's pointless to start analyzing things when there's nothing created, right? So, and there's so many things. For example, this studio, we had many iterations to where do we want to place the camera and how does the audio sound? And we just go into the pad and start improving little by little. And before you know, episode number 30 is already like a great episode, right? So it's not that you need thousands of repetitions before getting anywhere. No. And that's most surprising many times because let's say if you would commit yourself like, okay, I'm going to do 30 types of different advertising to sell my infrared panel or the products that we have created, right? Even if you sort of label that as failure, those first 20 times where your conversion rate are probably not there, and you lose some money, so you can calculate, okay, I'm going to lose this 2,000 euros or 5,000 euros, 10,000 or whatever type of money you want to commit to sort of that testing phase. So what helps me keep on trying and doing new things is saying like, this is the phase where I want to gather information. This is the phase where I want to learn. This is the phase where I want to grow towards a certain quality. So for our podcast, we took 50 repetitions. So yeah, that's more or less a kind of, I think, a year. A year is, I think, very, it's long, but not crazy long, right? But it gives you a year to just grow in that whole new situation. Or maybe when you say like, I'm going to do this for 10 lessons, and you just enrolled yourself in the 10 lessons, and you don't have a certain expectation on the outcome where you need to be after 10 lessons. So we talked a lot about that, because right now we're in our early 40s, and because there's a whole new paradigm of sort of being able to maintain your health at age 50, 60, 70, 80, and you're great example of that, being as fit as you are.
Being 85.
Feeling 85 maybe. No, too young.
85, but for example, you have used...
Don't tell people my age.
I won't, but maybe if they hear your age, they will be more surprised on what you do, because I think your curiosity levels are one of the main factors. You still look young, and you have a very vivid brain.
Not bad for being 85.
Not bad.
Not exactly. But I think there's a whole new sort of paradigm coming there, where people realize that they can extend this sort of feeling that they had in their childhood, exploring new kind of things. But then we said to ourselves, okay, what are then the new areas of skills? What are new areas of people that we want to surround with in this whole new endeavor that we are exploring? But that's also a matter of allow yourself to do that, because I had my e-commerce company. I sold my second e-commerce company. So then you get certain things. You get a feeling of entitlement at some places. Been there, done that. You get the feeling of what's the point? I'm not driven by this financial outcome, but the financial outcome is an important measurement stick of your business. So there's a whole new set of questions then arising. But the answer is like, just commit yourself to this new phase that you then entering. And I found it very liberating that I could say to myself, well, I go into do 25 repetitions of this and then see what happens.
Yeah. You use the word liberating.
Yeah.
So the word freedom is one of my favorite words. All my training programs have the word freedom in them. Sing with freedom, speak with freedom, perform with freedom, business with freedom, sleep with freedom. But it's so interesting to have that feeling of liberation, that we're becoming freer to do, to feel. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and the word freedom on itself, I've always felt freedom as a state of being instead of a set of conditions.
Okay.
Right? So I felt myself most free when in days, for example, where I had my day scheduled every 30 minutes, where I needed to be in certain situations and certain places. And I felt very much not free, like having a whole open agenda. So I discovered that that freedom on itself is not a set of conditions that you have, like having a certain amount of money or having a certain agenda or having certain people around you and all that. And I think one of the traps of freedom is that we tie it to a set of conditions, while it's actually just a state of being, or sometimes even a decision that you want to feel free in any given situation. How would you relate to that?
Yes. I just watched a video yesterday, an old interview that I did with a client. She had sent me an email, so I felt that I want to dig deeper and ask some more. She had spoken about that she was 37 when I interviewed her, and she had said that she had felt caged in her entire life. That's a big statement. So the story was, she shared in this interview, that she had grown up, her mom was sick, so being a good girl was to be quiet. So she was the perfect child. She was an angel child, as she said herself. She had become used to being nice and polite, but she had realized that she had never been allowed to express herself, use her voice. And she realized then that this had created so much tension everywhere inside of her that she felt so tense. And then she thanked me then, because she said that through my training, for the first time, she felt free. And she had felt from feeling caged in her entire life. So that ties into also, going away a little bit from what you talked about, but it ties into the voice also, because the voice is so important for our expression. And many people have felt that restricted feeling of not feeling free because they cannot express themselves. So it's interesting what you said as far as schedule and stuff like that. For creative people, some creative people need to have something confined, maybe a scheduled time or something that has some kind of, to be able to be creative.
Structure or environment.
Structure was the word I was exactly looking for. Some kind of structure. If everything is a mess, some people do not become creative at all. So people are different in that way, but the sense of structure can be very useful. But it's still, but if that sense of structure becomes that we feel caged in, or we feel like that's not useful either. So that's part of the awareness also. But
for your conditions maybe to thrive, but I always think, like, when you set certain conditions for yourself, I can only be free when this is like a very contradicting thing, right? Because you can be free and you can feel free in every situation. That was my experience that I discovered along the years. And also, what your story about this woman is an interesting story, because this is one of the things you do, right? Speak with freedom, sing with freedom. And I've been to one of your events where you actually allow people to sing for the first time in their life, right? Because many people have not, or maybe in their childhood, when they were encouraged to sing songs as a child, but at a certain age, you just stop doing that.
Yes.
And I felt it so amazing that people that have never been singing in their entire lives, and you give them, you talk with them and you let them do a certain exercises. That actually, when you hear those people sing, you feel like, wow, this sounds great. It feels very authentic, and there's a resonance to it, and you feel the soul of that human sort of liberating itself at that moment, right? It's a very beautiful thing to experience.
Oh, wonderful.
And what were the most surprising situations that you encountered as a coach, where somebody was visually locked up, and then after doing a couple of these exercises, totally liberated themselves? Are there any things that are coming to mind for you? Or
well, one blockage that a lot of people have is that they think they can't sing. Or they're tone deaf is even more extreme, right? And it's such a fascinating statement. I can't sing. First of all, what does that mean? How do you measure that? Mm-hmm. At what point can you and what point can't you? It's not a measurable activity. So why we use terminology like that is it blows my mind. You cannot define it. If you say you can't sing, please tell me at what point can you?
Yeah. I would say, okay, it's the level of quality.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you evaluate that?
Yeah.
Who's going to judge that?
Yeah, who's the judge?
It's impossible. You can't say that. If you swim, yeah, you can say if you drown, we can argue that you cannot swim. But if you can get across the short end of a pool, can you swim now? You're still not going to be able to swim in the lake. Right? And so it's all these levels of skill that we can develop, of course. But it's such a silly statement, I can or I can't, when it comes to something unmeasurable like that. But then people say they're tone deaf, right? So at many, many, many events, I've asked, is there someone here that truly believes you're tone deaf? Or you've been told that you're tone deaf? And then I have them come up on stage. And then we've already done stuff during the day so that, the mental stuff, the psychology is a little bit freer. But then I have them do a couple of things for a couple of minutes. And then I say, I'm going to play a chord on the piano. You're going to sing a note. Just say, ah. You're not going to try and hit the note or anything. It's not about right. But the thing is, it has to be on time. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to go. Whatever I play, whatever you sing, whatever note you choose. So then we do it. Boom. What do you think happens? They sing the note that I'm playing. How's that possible? Professional can't do it any better. Professional doesn't know what note I'm going to sing. If they cheat and listen first, yeah. But if it's right on time, the pro can't do it any better. Every single time they sing the note that fits the chord. How's that possible? But number one is then that we've removed the anticipation. We've removed the judgment. That's key. Now the brain will operate fast. So the brain will adjust, but it's such a short time thing that we can't tell. We think it's immediate, right? But the brain knows what to do. But your consciousness, your conscious thought is not going to be able to do it. And the problem that people like that have experienced when it comes to if they have engaged in training, they've been told, no, you're not singing the right note. You have to listen better. No, that's not right. No, sing a little bit higher, sing a bit low. That's not how it works. If my son is throwing the ball, he's a pitcher, right? If it's a little bit to the left, is your instruction going to be throw more to the right next time? That's not how it works.
Yep.
We cannot judge like that. So that has been such a rewarding thing to not only transform their beliefs, but everybody in the audience. They go like, wow, they think it's a magic trick. And when I post the video, it's actually, one is on YouTube. People think, oh, it's auto-tuned. You fixed it afterward. No.
You fixed it afterward. That's a compliment, right? So,
yeah, it's really happening. Yeah. And what I hear is like you're truly priming the person. Like, okay, this is going to happen. So they have an expectation in the moment.
So their expectation is to release with freedom.
Yeah.
Because if they are in judgment mode, if they're going to, oh no, or there's a thought process of I might miss, I might go, or like a professional would have the problem because now they're going to have even more pressure. Oh, I need to show that I can do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I have to remove that. Whatever happens, happens. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's almost the time that you need to catch a plane. So time moves freely when you speak with freedom, right? So what we're doing right now in this conversation.
Yes.
Maybe tell me a little bit more about your as for final minutes on your event in Vietnam that you're
okay.
Yeah.
And this is also interesting what we're doing here when it's not scripted, because now we have to be in this situation where can we release whatever comes to us in the moment? And that's part of creativity. That's part of life.
And then suddenly 1.5 hour evaporates like it's nothing, right? So.
Something like that.
I always say, like, when you're in pain, time moves slowly. When you're having fun, it's like time goes really fast.
That's interesting. So I have spent quite some time in Vietnam, and I really love the people. I love the being there. And like I mentioned before, people have also, when they know what I do, they have encouraged me, oh, you should do something here, because it's a fast-growing country and people are hungry to learn. And it's more and more about personal development, entrepreneurship, creativity. They actually have a very fascinating music industry also, but we don't know that because they sing in Vietnamese. So, but this event is not about singing, but I'm really inspired to help people recognize what they are capable of, and to talk about, go through the strategies that we haven't talked about today, but strategies of how to actually release these fears and the blockages that we may not be aware of, because we simply live our lives according to patterns. We're surviving. And now more and more people then are, it's fascinating in Vietnam also, they're very entrepreneurial, very creative.
Yeah.
They make everything beautiful. You go into a coffee shop and it's like, wow, such beauty. They really make an effort to do, they have a artistic
touch,
aesthetics.
Yeah, they have that,
Yes. And of course the country has traditionally been very farming. So there's also a lot of new thing with generational, can be challenging also, pressures to live up to these pressures.
Or cultural norms that,
like the younger generation have the pressure that they are supporting their older generation. In Europe, we don't have that. Yeah. I don't have the pressure to support parents. I'm supporting my kids. They're not supposed to support me. So that's a different cultural thing. Yeah. But that also leads to pressure, and they want to be successful. They want to make money and so forth. And they are very creative. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to help them, inspire them, and have an impact, and making them not only more successful, but feeling more fulfilled in life. In many industrialized societies, it's too much stress, as you know. That's what you're dealing with. People, it's not healthy. It's not good. So, but I find that there's so much love, so much gratitude. Like, considering their history, then you might think that there's a lot of pain. Well, of course there is a lot of pain. Yeah. But how they'll be able to deal with that, and that approaching life with such gratitude, and it's impressive. We have a lot to learn.
Yeah. So it's amazing that you're going on that challenge yourself, like other side of the world, and
that's part of my freedom thing, right?
Yeah.
So I love to explore what I'm capable of, and I love to learn. I love to learn about the world. I sold my house in LA, in Los Angeles 3 years ago. I just wanted to travel. Since most of my business is online, I felt I just wanted to explore the world. But now so I didn't come to Vietnam to do business. But now I feel like, okay, so I've set in motion to do this event, and I'm excited, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, let's wrap up with that excitement. It was a blessing to have you on, Per. We enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you.
And be free to share this with all the people of Vietnam, because that will be lovely to I will say hi to them.
Yes.
So also greetings.
Hey, you should come.
Yeah, exactly. We should come.
Check the agenda. Let's go.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're very much also want to say hi to all the people in Vietnam that are going to your event, and send warm greetings from the cold Netherlands here as well. So
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
No, but if you come to Vietnam, you'll love it. It's wonderful, and I'm really happy to do this event in Vietnam, and I'm happy to be here today with you. So thank you.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you.